Avatar 2: The Way of Water on 4K Blu-ray. This is probably one of the best looking and sounding 4Ks ever made. So this is going to be my review and my analysis of the movie and the disc. So, just like the first Avatar movie, this disc also has an audio track that removes objectionable language. So that's cool, and I applaud James Cameron for doing that. I think more movies should do that. But for this review, I listened to the Dolby Atmos, which was really awesome. It was very impressive. It was a very active mix, very powerful, very dynamic. The sound was all over the place. It was really, really good sound.
A story in our life.
Alright, apparently his hybrid avatar body has no problem reproducing. And look at this adorable little cat baby. Aww, look at that. But my wife said it's not weird that they can reproduce, because I guess some clones and hybrids can reproduce, but some hybrids cannot reproduce, like ligers. So yeah, I guess she wasn't surprised that they can reproduce because she's a scientist, but I was surprised. But what's even stranger, speaking of Avatar people or Na'vi people reproducing, so this little baby is Grace. This is the one that is like Sigourney Weaver's character. This baby came from Grace's avatar, got pregnant and had this baby. And look, it also has 5 fingers and 5 toes. But the movie is also like, whoa, the avatar got pregnant. They speculate a little bit later about how it happened, but I'm still kind of confused. Like, when she died, was she pregnant, or did it get pregnant after and they just like kept her body? I don't know. Probably got pregnant while she was alive. I don't know. It's odd. Maybe they explain it, but I just didn't pay attention because I was looking at all the shiny, glowy things. I think aggressively spiritual is a good way to describe the Na'vi.
A bead for the first communion with A1.
So it looks like they took some inspiration from human cultures. And they have this what they call their first communion, where they stick their little weird hair tentacles onto their spiritual tree. Which is like in some human cultures, how there's some babies, there's like a baby blessing there in some cultures and religions. So this Na'vi thing where there's like a first communion or blessing or whatever it is that's done all around the earth. So it's not surprising to see it incorporated into Na'vi. So one thing that I find that's interesting in movies that have different languages and that the audience is English, or even there's a character speaking English, is how they deal with not just having subtitles the whole time. So I think the perfect movie to do this, that seems like this is kind of imitating right here, is The 13th Warrior, where Antonio Banderas joins the Viking people, and you just see him for a long time just watching their mouths and listening, and there's all the subtitles, and then eventually, as he's watching them, their audio switches to English, and symbolizing that he's now learned their language, and then he speaks to them in English and they understand, and us as the viewer, we're now getting it in English, and we're going to get it in English for the rest of the movie. But that scene was to tell us that they're still speaking whatever Viking language, but for us, we're getting English, and now the character knows that language, and they actually do the exact same thing right here. So there's a bunch of subtitles, talks about learning the language.
Will be English.
So it switched, so the audio switches to English. So now we can just be like, okay, they're speaking their normal language, but we can understand it as the viewer and don't have to read the whole time. I think the show that does this the most, I don't know if it's the hardest to believe, is like Star Trek, where they're constantly meeting new peoples and cultures, and they have what's called the universal translator. But what we end up seeing on the show is just people speaking English back and forth to each other, and we just know that the universal translator's in the background doing something. But I like how this show and 13th Warrior do it. I actually really like this part where they're getting together for a family picture, but listen to what the older brother says. All right, listen to what he says. You hear that?
Happiness is simple.
He says, "Smile, Scown." So in the last movie, we learned that that means moron. So it's just funny, and they just say it in this movie, and you just have to know. You either have to know it or just know that he's saying something cheeky to his family. But I thought it was actually cool coming from just barely watching the last movie to coming to this one to hear him say "Smile, Scout." Okay, and then this movie sees fit to deliver some very conflicting emotions to me when the humans arrive after being gone for a long time. They see
star in the night.
New star, which means
It could only mean one thing.
decelerating spaceships.
Accelerating.
Yes. First of all, look at this amazing shot. Oh my gosh. Wow. So the reason I'm conflicted emotionally is because the humans are coming back, and that's pretty much a bad thing, right? For Pandora and all the little blue cat people. But for me, it's a good thing because I get to see really cool spaceships. There's one thing that James Cameron does amazingly in these movies is the human sci-fi stuff. I mean, look at this. That is beautiful. I could just put that on the wall. Apparently, ligers can reproduce, though. It's mules that can't. So I guess it was that why I was surprised to see that Jake's avatar body could make babies. But he can, so good job. Again, this is very sad because all the little forest animals are getting themselves burnt to crisps. But look at these things landing, and they're like deceleration things as they come down onto the planet. Look at this. Also, the music's incredible on this part. Look at this. Ha ha! Look at that. It's like Independence Day. Okay. So I know that it's bad that the humans are landing and destroying everything, but this is so beautiful. This is such beautiful destruction. Oh my gosh. Speaking of which, you see a lot of these animals just getting nuked as they're running away. And I did wildland firefighting for 6 years, and sometimes you come across animals that have been basically burned over, and like I've seen animals that are like stuck like in mid-run that I'll try not to get too graphic, but essentially there's no more fur and they're just like this glossy red. So it's very real, and especially since fires have been so prolific since the last movie was made, I think these scenes are meant to hit home, actually, because James Cameron makes these movies in that way, because all the destructive wildfires that have happened. But this is crazy, all the destruction from these landing ships. And again, I know it's bad, but it is such beautiful destruction. This makes me kind of feel like Krennic on Rogue One when they destroy Jeddah City, and he's like, "It's beautiful," and you're supposed to be like so disgusted with him as the audience, and here I am telling you that I think this is beautiful. Okay, so the humans landing and destruction continues, and just when I thought I couldn't get any more elated at all this awful evil destruction, this little door opens and just gives me the most wonderful present that just added years to my life. Ah! A bunch of mech warriors! Yes! Look at this. Look at that shot. That is so cool. Anyway, so just, again, I know they're the bad guys and they're doing bad stuff, but they sure have and do a lot of cool and interesting looking things, even though they're bad. Speaking of that, they're bad. If you look at the Wikipedia articles on the avatars like 4 and 5, it looks like they want to have the message kind of go full circle and have future sequels have to do with Earth and actually kind of, I guess, repenting, for lack of a better word, and fixing Earth and bringing it back. And so I actually really look forward to the hopeful message at the end of this series. So, because right now I'm feeling pretty condemned by this movie. This movie's calling me, or us in general, just very destructive. So I look forward to James Cameron's vision of Earth kind of being turned, their Earth in this series being turned around. So actually getting more invested. Just gotta wait till 2031 for the movies to finish. Gosh. All right. this train robbery scene, which forgive the non-PC language, but this is straight up out of a Cowboys and Indians story. I guess nowadays you would say cow people and Native Americans. But that's what it was called back in the day, and there was movies made that, and that's what they were called. So it's historically accurate to call it a Cowboys and Indians thing. So the blue people are totally hooting and hollering and yipping like the Indians in those movies, and they're totally, it's like a train robbery in the 1800s here. But I want to show this scene or this little clip here because they have what I said in my last review of the first Avatar, the George Lucas zoom that I call it that, where it's like a really fast digital zoom. And I believe that George Lucas invented that move in Star Wars Episode 2, and movies do it a lot now. But the first Avatar does it a whole bunch of times, and this Avatar does it a whole bunch of times. It's coming right up here when you see the train. Right there. Here it goes, right there. Anyway, so this Avatar does it a whole bunch of times, but it's an interesting move. Keeps you watching, but also it's the same, this movie is the same visual language as the last movie. So even though the graphics look way better, like all the way better, the audio, like the music, the sound effects, the cinematography itself, and the way everything looks, it's still the same like visual language. So you absolutely feel like it's a sequel. There's nothing weird or jarring about the continuation of the story. Listen to this. This is straight out of a Cowboys and Indians like wagon train raiding scene. See them raiding through all the stuff that they sold and hear all that. But then James Cameron puts his modern spin on it and does this.
Let's go. 2 minutes, people. Let's go.
So you still have the modern like technology and the Na'vi stuff. So even though it's just like, oh my gosh, that is right on the nose like an old Western, it's still, they've brought it into this movie and this year and this technology. So it still is really cool, even though it is like right on the nose of what it's emulating. So Jake Sully's design is really awesome in this movie. How he's incorporated all of his Na'vi stuff, and then he's got like a beady Brady necklace, but then he has his throat radio there, and then you see that he has like more native-y Na'vi looking stuff, and then he has this like military Molly strap type thing, and then he's modified his rifle with a wood stock that has holes carved in. It looks so cool. So his character design is awesome in this movie. So a huge part of this movie is the theme of a father protecting their kids. And my goodness, this movie loves to tease you on the kids being in danger and are they dead, are they not dead? My goodness, just watching this thing as a parent myself, there were so many scenes where I was like, oh my gosh, are these kids gonna die? Like, oh. But yeah, just over and over and over. And so later in the movie, when something finally does happen, they've definitely been teasing it a whole lot. All right, so Neytiri, is that her name? She's going to talk to Jake about their family. But look at what Jake's doing during this conversation. Very realistic. Look at that. He is cleaning and maintaining his weapon.
What?
Like a good Marine or soldier. So again, it's just this level of detail that just makes these movies very watchable, is the fact that he's sitting there cleaning his rifle, which is what you would be doing if this is your life. So there's a lot of commentary and I guess thoughts and stuff about fathers in this movie. And listen to what she says to him.
You are very hard on them.
I'm their father. It's my job.
This is not a squad. It is a family.
All right. I kind of disagree with this part. She says this is not a squad, it's a family. So he totally runs his family like military. Like they say, yes, sir, and he uses military language with them, like lingo and terminology. Like they really do run like a military. She says this isn't a squad, it's your family. So yes, it's their family. But at the same time, they are frequently a squad, and they're using military tactics, military radios, military weapons. They're moving in military manner, and it's like they are a squad. So yes, they're a family. It's like, but they are literally a squad multiple times throughout this movie. So she's trying to separate it, and it's like, I'm sorry, but in your life, they are actually the same. So maybe you could say, we're not a squad, we're a family. We're a family squad. But yeah, they're definitely not separate. They act like a squad. All right, this is bugging me. I got to point it out. So the first movie did this, and this movie did it as well. I was going to let it slide, but this movie's totally doing it as well. So you've got the humans getting off the airplane, getting on to Pandora, and they've got their like military-style duffel bag, and they are so limply filled. It's like they just stuffed like 3 pillows in there, and they're like, yeah, that's good. That'll look realistic. So if you look at these things, like look at how just like floppy and not full they are. And then like on this one, like watch this girl's arm as she's carrying it. It's like, really, this is like your belongings you're bringing with you. Look at, see our elbows bending? It's just like, yeah, the thing weighs like 4 pounds. So I was going to let it slide on the first one. I did let it slide on the first one, but when I see him doing it again in here, and it's just like, there's nothing in those duffel bags. That's just pillows. So that does take me out of it a little bit, because every time I go anywhere with military people and we all have our duffel bags, they are stuffed and they are tightly full. And your elbow doesn't bend like that. Like there's nothing in there. So all those people just had like 3 pillows in there. So I guess it's not 100% accurate. This general looks like such a goober in this uniform. That hat just does not work. So the background, all the building stuff is actually really cool. She's going to talk about them right now. They're like swarm assembly droids. They briefly mention them a little bit, but there's so much like visual exposition that's just being fed to you that they don't ever address. Like how fast they're building the city is so awesome. And then there's like some metal 3D printing going on that they just show you. They're like, look at this, but no one ever says anything about it. But it's like metal 3D printing, and it looks so cool. So good job, James Cameron, again. Okay, here's the metal 3D printing.
Commander, I have been charged with a greater mission.
Look at this. Yeah.
Earth is dying.
Oh, there we go. We get the Earth is dying lecture again. But look at this metal 3D printing. It's very cool. So this general talks about how they're not just going to run a mine this time, that they're going to make this like a new Earth, and that their mission is they need to pacify the locals. And we're going to talk about this a little bit at the end, about how good of a job they're doing at pacifying them. All right, this is one of my favorite parts in the whole movie. So the little train robbery, this like blue people marine recon scene, and then the rescue after this. But I just love watching these, like their insertion basically, like fast rope down and then get their gun up as quick as they can. So I just love all this like jungle warfare squad tactics parts with these guys. Again, I know they're the bad guys, but I really love watching them. So I love this scene so much. You've got all the recon guys that have captured all their kids, and they're basically standing by for extraction. And you've got Jake and Natiri are sneaking up and just gonna do the coolest like rescue / battle. This is so awesome. Look at Jake Sully's gonna sneak up and get this guy. He has some really cool hand-to-hand skills and weapons. Look at that thing! He flips it around. So cool. Anyway, this scene is awesome with the bow and arrows, and then once the soldiery guys see that they're getting shot at, they say contact rear, and they all turn around and start shooting. Anyway, this scene is so delightful. I wish I could just show the whole thing, but I can't. Anyway, this is the first child rescue scene, and it's probably my favorite part in the whole movie. So I have a few favorite parts, and this is definitely one of them. So yeah, I just love the sneaking in and like killing them and rescuing, and just his hand-to-hand skills, and it's such a cool scene. Like this movie had some really great scenes. It also had some whale friendship stuff that dragged on forever. I think this movie was too long, says the guy making a YouTube video that's already over 20 minutes, but I do think this movie could have been shorter. Now, the length, what was happening during the length that I'm kind of accusing of being like bloat or whatever, like story-wise and writing-wise, it all fit just fine. It's just for me, it was too long. Like, I like more of this jungle warfare stuff than like the making friends with whales stuff, and like all the pretty fishes and all the like spiritual stuff got like a little tedious. Like it got, that's why I call it like aggressively spiritual. But story-wise, it made sense. So I wasn't like, this shouldn't be here. I was just like, I'm struggling to make it through all this fish friendship stuff. So again, I really like the themes of family in this movie, and this is one of the really good family quotes, and then I'll show a good fatherhood quote here in a second. But listen to what Sully says.
But I know one thing. Wherever we go, this family is our fortress.
Wherever we go, this family is our fortress. Neat. So that family fortress line comes when they're talking about how they're going to have to leave the forest, because if they're there, they're going to get everybody there killed. So they have to leave. And the movie, so the first movie had voiceover narration from Jake Sully, but it was the narration that he was literally doing to the camera as like a video journal. And then the video journal stops, and then that movie continued narration. So they just decided to have him narrate the movie. And right here, it's the same thing. He's not doing a video journal. And so now he kind of just is like the narrator voice, or it's like his inner monologue. Anyway, he says a line about dads here that I really, really like and believe in.
Father protects. It's what gives him meaning.
Father protects. That's what gives him meaning. So I absolutely believe in that. I believe my job is to provide, preside, and protect for my family. And so it's nice to see it in a movie, and it's rare to see a movie that's like shows a strong father protecting his family, and sometimes he's hard on them, but he absolutely loves them. And this movie's awesome in promoting family stuff. I mean, it's way more violent than the first one, and a lot darker than the first one, and scarier than the first one. So I'd probably have to wait for my kids to get older to see it, but I mean, it's cool. It's cool to see a movie actually promoting family stuff nowadays. It's pretty rare. So this character that's like Grace's avatar's daughter, which is a little weird. Also, they're keeping Grace's avatar like in a tube alive or something. I'm not sure. It's weird. But anyway, they're having this little teenager Grace daughter, avatar daughter. They keep showing her like communing with Awa, and like they keep setting her up as being able to control nature-y stuff, and we don't know who her father was. Maybe I'm not a very good movie watcher, and I'm not sure what they're trying to say, but to me it's starting to feel like she's some kind of like chosen one or something. Maybe the other movies will address this more, maybe not, but maybe I missed it because I was too busy looking at the mech warriors and the burning down forest, and I'm just like, whatever, she's doing spiritual stuff, I don't care. So I don't know, they're setting her up to be something so interesting / curious, I guess. So then we get to see the blue people, the clone blue people learning how to be blue people, and then we get to see the Jake Sully's family learning how to be water Na'vi instead of forest Na'vi. And it's interesting, and it's kind of parallels the first movie, but those parts do go on for really long, even though the underwater photography is, or I don't know, it's all fake looking, but it's absolutely breathtaking looking. So it's like, and the HDR and the just like how everything's glowing is very beautiful, but it just goes on for so long. And one cool thing we learn about the whales, again, we meet a bunch of humans that are whalers, and we learn that humans are bad and save the whales. Again, my goodness, I feel like I was reading Moby Dick, which is a really good book, but has extensively long chapters describing exactly how to do whaling and the ripping off this and cutting off this and using this tool. So I kind of felt like that in this middle part of this movie. I was like, oh my gosh. So once this part happened, I was just like, yay, action. Yeah, It's cool music. Got George Lucas Zoom there, riding their little water attack things, and then you got these little G.I. Joe looking gray boats charging at them. So I was just like, yes, 2 hours and 11 minutes in. Let's get some more like fighting. My goodness. But one thing that is cool about the Save the Whale whales is we find out that they're actually incredibly intelligent, and they have like music and philosophy and complex language and thought. So that's just cool that there's other like pretty much sentient species on this planet. And the humans want their brain juice because it makes them not age anymore. And so what's better than that expensive rock from the last movie? Brain juice that stops human aging. So there's got to be some kind of thing that the humans want to go after and be super unethical to get. So here's another part that the accuracy just made my heart grow 2 sizes. So you've got this thing shooting into the water, and I'm going to show it in fast speed, and then we're going to have to watch it in slow motion. But basically, you're going to see what happens to a bullet when it goes into water. See that? Probably not, but we're going to do this in slow motion and see how super cool and accurate this is. So you see the bullet come in the water, and wait for it. There it goes. See that? How it's tumbling. See how the bullet is like tumbling? So instead of just going straight in and spinning, it starts tumbling end over end. And that is super realistic about what a bullet does when it enters water. One thing I have to say for these action scenes, which are nuts and go on for a really long time, is that somebody must have done some incredible choreography of where everything is. Because you actually can follow what's happening in these battles, like where people are, where the boats are, like where different destructions have happened, which comes into play later when they're like in a half sunken boat. But this choreography is the fight choreography, just planning where everything is. Either they tricked me into believing it's really good, or it actually is really good. Okay. So this guy, is a naughty whaler, and he's been very cruel and mean to the natives and the whales and the fishes. And so this movie is going to punish him with a brutally violent, very painful death. And this series, I guess, likes to do that. Like they like to have the humans get killed in pretty wild ways. Like the colonel from the first one gets 2 giant arrows in his chest after getting in a big hand-to-hand fight. But this right here, so the whale just he's jumped out of the water over their ship with this cord wrapped around it, and now it's on this guy's arm, and you can see the pressure there. You can probably guess what's going to happen, but this scene is like, oh, that was really gross, but it's just like, yeah, that guy's really bad. So it's not necessarily like, oh, I just didn't wish that didn't happen to him. But it kind of makes me think of the first Jurassic World movie, where the babysitter gets carried off by pterodactyls, and she just gets like mercilessly attacked by them, and it's so cruel and violent and awful, and they just dwell on it forever. And it's I get it. They're trying to show that the dinosaurs are like indiscriminately violent. But typically it's hard in a movie like Jurassic World or the Jurassic series where like bad people will get punished by the dinosaurs, right? And the good guys will get away. And so weirdly in Jurassic World, you got this babysitter just getting so violently attacked. And it's kind of a huge turnoff for that movie. It's like, why are they showing this? Why are they doing this? But this guy, he gets his comeuppance, and it's so violent and brutal, but it's just like, yeah, he's a bad guy. So anyway, I just think it's weird to contrast the Jurassic World where the babysitter just gets like totally brutalized. And of course, there's tons of footage of this like boat getting wrecked and sinking and stuff, and water coming in, and starts to feel a lot like Titanic. And it's like, man, I guess James Cameron's just got to do a James Cameron sometimes and just show a boat aggressively sinking and upside down and people getting blasted by water and just really scary, terrifying underwater entrapment scenes. So their Dane kids need to get rescued again, of course. And they've just had a severe, awful family tragedy. It's heartbreaking. But this leads into my other favorite scene, which is another Jake and Neytiri rescue their kids scene through tons of really brutal and efficient kills, just where they both come in from different angles and takes that gun from a guy that he just barely speared. Look at her. So awesome. Anyway, I can't just run it, but just these two sneaking all over this ship and just taking out all these different people in so many different ways. It's just delightful. And again, it's violence that has meaning though to the story, because it's these parents trying to rescue their kids. So yeah, it's like cool violence, but like story wise, it's also really cool. So it actually has an even stronger impact. One thing I really appreciate about this movie is all of the reloading. I love when movies show reloading. So they're constantly having gun battles and having to reload out of their gear. And I think this movie may take the cake for person who runs out of ammo and throws their gun at someone scene. Look at this beautiful thing. One more time for a good measure with a better angle. Okay, here it is for real. Just annihilates that guy. That's beautiful. Okay, so overall, this movie was pretty good. I think it's better than the first one. It still doesn't break any new ground story-wise, but I really, really like the family themes in it. This movie did make me want to be a better father and better husband and better provider, presider, and protector. And so I really did like the family theme, and that we have a strong male father in the movie, where a lot of movies nowadays seem to denigrate that or push it to the side and not let it be even a thing in their world. So I really like to see Jake Sully taking care of his family. And of course the movie's beautiful, and if you're super into watching just the weird life forms on Pandora for hours and hours, then this is for you. So the 4K is absolutely perfect. It's flawless. Like I said, this is probably one of the best 4K discs that's been created thus far. The Dolby Atmos was really fun, and like I mentioned already, it was great. Just all around perfect disc. I didn't watch the special features yet because I didn't want that to get into my personal analysis of the movie, so I look forward to watching all of that. So thank you for watching this very long video that I have made. Let me know what you think of the Avatar movies. Also, I am going to give away the digital copy that came in the combo pack. So you need to be subscribed, leave a comment, and also look at the About section on my channel for my email address, and send me an email saying that you want to be entered in to win the digital copy. I will do a random drawing from people who have subscribed, commented, and send me an email. I will do a random drawing from people who have emailed me, because then I can just email you right back, of the digital copy of this movie, Avatar: The Way of Water, and I'll do the drawing on the 4th of July, 2023. So that's 7 days from right now. So thanks for sticking with me this long. Make sure and do the things, and I'll do a random drawing. It's probably not going to be very many people, so you probably got a good shot. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of this series. I feel like I'm kind of an outsider with this series, but there's definitely a lot to enjoy for someone like me in this movie. So thanks for watching. See you later. See you on the next one.